Hey everybody, welcome to the Chef Dana Show, and man, do I have a flavor-packed episode for you today. We are doing one of my favorites. I mean, my wife, she goes nuts when I make this dish. It is shrimp and grits. I know you're gonna love it. We're taking it back to the low country, back to Mozambique, and we're gonna get this party started. So take a look at some of the ingredients I have today. We have all kinds of deliciousness on the board. Of course, we got shrimp, right? We got some bacon. We have a little bit of parsley, a little bit of scallions. I have a little bit of Creole seasoning, red pepper flakes for a little bit of heat, garlic, some oil, a little lemon just to wake it up. And then in front here, oh baby, we got some sharp cheddar cheese. We have some pepper jack. I have two types of milk. I have a whole milk and an evaporated milk, and I have some grits. All right. Now, I know normally a lot of times they're like, yeah, you're going to take some water and you make your grits. Listen, I'm all about flavor. You know what I mean? When they say put the water in there, I might say kiss my grits. Listen, we want some flavor in there, so we're going to do some milk. We're going to add some richness to it and so forth. You could even use chicken stock if you want to. That's another option. Chicken stock is good in that, let's say you're making your grits, right, and it gets a little too tight. Add a little bit of chicken stock, it loosens it right up. Better than water because it has a little bit of flavor. Now, if you're concerned about the sodium, nowadays in the store, you can find the chicken stocks that are made with low fat, low sodium, things like that. So you don't have to worry about all the salt in there and everything. So here we go. Let's work on the grits a little bit. And then I'm gonna heat up my pan for my shrimp and the bacon. So in this pan right here, let's start by warming that up. This pan, I'm warming it up also. Here I have some bacon, right? My personal preference, Chef Dana choice, would be to use an applewood bacon. I think it has more flavor to it. Other ones, though, that are acceptable would be cherrywood. That's delicious. Honey cured. That's delicious. Brown sugar cured. That's delicious. Not that I don't like the hickory smoked. I like it. But if you're giving me a choice, well then I'm going with the applewood smoked and so forth. So we're gonna start by putting our bacon in this pan here. We're gonna get that going. Spread that around. Okay. And what we're doing is we're gonna cook our bacon until it's nice and crispy. Or should I say almost crispy? Because then we're gonna add some shrimp to that thing. All right. So I'm just gonna move my bacon around here a little bit so we get better surface area. The thickness of your bacon, you can cut it up how you want to cut it up. I tend to cut it up a little bit smaller because you guys ever have like a salad, right? And you're eating the salad, it's the bomb, and it's got like cheese in there, it's got nuts, it's got the proteins and all that stuff, but then you mess around and run out of the good stuff, you know what I mean, in the salad, and all you're left with is the greens, leave you feeling like a rabbit. So for me personally, I cut the bacon up small enough so that everybody's getting some bacon all throughout the dish. Nobody's feeling like, oh man, you got the 4 nice pieces of bacon and there's nothing left. We don't play that in Chef's Kitchen. All right, so I'm just spreading my bacon out, and we're gonna let that cook until it gets crispy. It's going to release some fat. So I know what you're thinking, Chef, what are we doing with the fat? Well, I'm so glad you asked. So with the fat, we're going to end up cooking the shrimp in there. One thing we're not going to do is waste the flavor that we're building in the pan. All right? And then I'll show you what we'll do at the end to release the flavors that have built up in the pan. You're like, Chef, there's flavors that get stored in the pan? Yeah. From the pores of the pan? Absolutely, and I'm gonna show you what to do to release those flavors to give you the most flavor in your dish. All right? So that's our bacon going. My pan's feeling warm here. So in here, I'm going to add my milk. All right, let's add some milk to that. And we're gonna add some evaporated milk, a little extra flavor. I know you're like, well, couldn't I just use all regular milk? Yeah, you could. But think about it like an apple. Do all apples taste the same? Absolutely not. So by having a few different types of milk, you can get a few different types of flavor. But if you're like, Chef, I don't really do the dairy thing, right? I can't have dairy. I'm lactose. What can I do? Oat milk, soy milk, maybe an almond milk or something like that. All acceptable for this dish. Sometimes you just have to make sure you're stirring it. Sometimes the milks versus water, it might want to stick to the bottom of your pot a little bit if you just left it sitting there. So every once in a while, you just want to stir it. Now to my pot here, I'm just going to add just a little bit of salt. Okay, give that a nice little stir. I'm going to get another spatula for my bacon. And if you can see in the pan there, you see it's releasing all kinds of little oils there. Now, back in the day, Grandma used to have a little jar on the counter. I know y'all like, oh yeah, I remember that jar. I remember that jar. She would have a little jar on the counter, and when she was making something like bacon, she would pour the bacon grease off of there. Well, in Southern cooking, they didn't waste anything. So that bacon grease, they would take a little spoon and throw it in the pan, and that's how the eggs were born. I'm telling you, they make scrambled eggs, just a little boop of the bacon fat in there. Because they didn't want to spend the money on the butter. Butter was more expensive. Okay, so our bacon is sizzling away. While that's cooking and our milk is warming up, again, you want to stir your milk every now and then. You do not want to just throw it on the stove and leave it, because sometimes it can stick on the bottom, okay? While that's going, I'm going to cut up some scallions. Now, if you don't have scallions, you could use onions. They come from the onion family, just another flavor, another variety, so to speak. But I'm going to go ahead and slice this up. Okay, just like this. I know what you're thinking. You're like, Chef, you're going all the way down to the white part. Yeah. A lot of times we look at the scallion and say, oh, as soon as I get to the white part, it's no good. Yes, it is. It's got flavor too. When I used to work at Four Seasons, I had some French chefs that I was working under at the time, and they would always say, whoa, what you doing? We don't waste anything. And they would cut it all the way down to the very end. And what I realized is that after sauteing and so forth, it does have good flavor. All right. So I'm just moving my bacon around here. I'm gonna get ready to pull it out in a second. It's starting to do that poppy thing on me, you know what I mean? So if you are cooking bacon, especially if you have some young ones helping you and so forth, make sure they're wearing some long sleeve attire. All right, so I'm just pulling my bacon here back because I know it's just about done. That last bit of residual heat is gonna finish it. I'm gonna put it in this bowl right here, okay? Just like this. Now, if you're like, Chef, I got a whole lot of fat in my pan. Like, I don't know if I should cook my shrimp in that much fat, right? Good question, good call. This bacon, and I can tell it was had a lot of high fat to it because I can see how much it literally released, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna grab a little bowl myself. Don't forget your milk, stir that milk. I'm gonna get a little bowl here. Oh my goodness, am I that tall? I can't blame nobody for me. I'm the tall guy. I put it up there. All right. So I'm going to take a little bit of the grease out of here. A little bit of the bacon fat. Okay. I'm going to leave just enough to cook my shrimp in. All right. And this is plenty. All right. So I'm going to return that to the heat. Let that stay warm. Have my shrimp here. In here, I'm going to add my Creole seasoning. Now, the Creole seasoning that I like to use is made by Tiffany Dairy. That's my sister from another mister. If you haven't checked her out, check her out. She was on season, might have been 1 or 2 of the show. But we threw down. We threw down that episode. Boy, that girl cooked. Nevertheless, if you're in Dallas, check her out. Check her out. She can burn. Just nominated for a James Beard Award. Extremely happy for her and proud of her. She's doing her thing. Her seasoning is the bomb, Creole seasoning. So if you like Old Bay or some of those Creole seasonings, check hers out. Hers got a lot of flavor to it. All right, into the pan we go. Spread them out. Woo, love it. And again, every time I make this dish, I think of my wife because she tears this one up. And my wife, she can be picky. She like what she like. All right, turn up. There we go. I'm gonna bring my heat up just a little more because I want to get a nice sear on this thing. And then once we get a nice sear, I'm gonna turn them over. Shrimp don't take that long to cook, and neither do grits, honestly. Okay, so I'm stirring my milk. I can start to see already that my milk here is getting ready to come to that simmer or that boil, which is great. And again, I'm stirring it because I don't want anything, and I'm checking my spatula. See, when I check my spatula, it's nice and clear. I'm checking the spatula because I don't want anything on the bottom of that to burn. Milk can burn, all right? So I'm checking the shrimp, checking it twice. Let's flip these over. No, not yet. I want a little bit longer, just a little bit. I want to get just a little bit of color on there. I'm just peeking at them. That one, see how this one's starting to? I'm going to lay it on top here. See how that one there is just starting to get some color to it. Just starting to. All right? So I'm going to let it sit just a second longer, get a little bit of color. Then we're going to flip it over. My milk game here is looking good. It's come to that simmer. I'm going to get ready to add in my grits. Now, when you do grits here, normally it'll be like a cup of liquid to a quarter cup of grits. All right? Cup of liquid to a quarter cup of grits. So whether that's water, milk, stock. So I know I got your mind going. You're like, wait a minute. I could get experimental and make grits with all kinds of liquids. Yeah. Orange juice. A little bit of lemon juice in your thing there. Sure can. Surprise me. Look, make some, send me the pictures, let me know how it came out. I'm flipping my shrimp here. We've got a nice little sear on them, so I'm flipping that pretty quickly. I'm doing the two-handed routine right now because I want to stir my grits at the same time. And so now that I'm flipping my shrimp, you're like, that boy good. He two-handed? He two-handed. Yes. Yeah. All right, couple more shrimp. There we go. So now that I flipped it over, I'm about to add some love in this pan, all right? So here's my grits. I'm moving back and forth. Again, it's a starch. You don't want it to stick on the bottom, which is why you see me nursing it the way I'm nursing it. Red pepper flakes going in. Garlic going in. That nice little sizzle. I'll move this around so everybody's getting some love. Okay. Wonderful. Move my grits around. And I can see my liquid is starting to, what's the word for it? Get absorbed by the grits, which is what we want. Okay. Now, I'm going to add my scallions. I'm going to add most of them. I'm going to save this a little bit for garnish, if that's cool with y'all. We're going to save a little bit of this for garnish. But we're going to get some of these scallions cooking. So we'll enjoy them two ways. We'll enjoy them cooked, and then we'll have the freshness from the raw ones. A little bit of bite. Okay. So once you get the scallions in there, you know what's coming next. Hello. Let's get that bacon going on. Back in the pan. Grits are looking good. Shrimp is looking good. The bacon's back in there. Now remember, I promised you that I would show you and tell you how to get the flavor out your pan, right? So I'm gonna just go ahead and pull that pan off the heat because the bacon's in there, scallions, the garlic, red pepper flakes are in there. Everybody's doing their thing, right? A little lemon, something acidic. Hear that little sizzle start to happen. What is going on is the acids from the lemon are literally pulling the flavor into the shrimp, into the dish. It's gonna be perfect. Okay, so that's my shrimp right there. I wanna make sure that, I'm not overdoing it, so that's why I'm pulling it from the heat. And B, it's nice and flavored, so I'm giving it a little bit of salt and pepper right now. And we're gonna let that hang out for a second. Now over here, we got that grit thing going on. Okay. Beautiful. Ooh, that's looking good. All right, so that's our grits. Our shrimp. I'm already ready to eat. Let's play with these grits a little more because they need a little bit more love. You gotta stir them. It's a starch. Most people think of it, oh, I can just put it in the pan and just walk away. Okay, you can do it if you want to, and you're gonna have popcorn grits. What's popcorn grits? That's when the bottom of your pan burns and it gives a little popcorn flavor. That's not what you want in your grits. All right, so you see I'm stirring the grits, and if you can see now, before it was like really milky. Now you can see how a lot of that moisture is getting absorbed. So it's almost there. Okay. So a lot of people ask me, Chef, where did grits come from? Where did this whole shrimp and grits thing come from? A lot of people think, oh, it came from Charleston, because it was so popular down there at this one restaurant called, I think it was like Crook's Corner. But the reality is a lot of people believe that it came from either the Low Country or Mozambique. So the way shrimp and grits was kind of born was that a lot of times they used to call it breakfast shrimp. So what was breakfast shrimp? Breakfast shrimp was really shrimp that were served with hominy, right? So hominy is another corn product, but the husk of the thing is removed. So you think of it kind of more like a pozole or something. But that's where they believe shrimp and grits really started with hominy. Became a little bit more refined. It came over here. They were making more grits than they were the hominy. And so that's how shrimp and grits were born. Okay. So as you can see my grits have totally gotten tighter and everything. I'm going to check because I want to make sure that the grits are done. Now, if I feel like, hey, my grits are a little chewy, I'm going to add, remember what we talked about earlier? I'm going to add a little bit of chicken stock. Getting there. I think it needs a little bit more liquid. Okay. Remember I was telling you before, chicken stock is your friend, or you could use milk. I'm just gonna add a little chicken stock. Stir that in there. Because really, let's say you're having grits, right? And you feel like it's still slightly chewy. It's saying, hey friend, hey friend, I need a little bit more liquid in me. I can keep cooking the way I am, but I'm not going to get a whole lot softer. Why? Because I don't have any more liquid to absorb. So you add a little bit of that chicken stock. That goes a long way. Or you could add milk. The reason I like chicken stock, though, is it's like room temperature. I'm not shocking the grits by pouring something ice cold into it. You know what I mean? Okay. So here we go. Stirring the grits. Okay, we're getting there. I'm gonna add just a little bit more stock. And that should do it. Once that stock is absorbed, we're gonna have ourselves some grits. I'm just gonna stir it up. And again, this is just to make sure the grits are cooked well. I did a James Beard dinner with one of my friends, and his name was BJ. Now BJ, he's actually down in that Charleston area. He's down there. What's the island off the coast of North Carolina, where they say all the Geechee culture is? Right down in there. That's where BJ's from. And when I tell you, he had a special type of grits I had never seen in this bag, but baby, I have to ask him what kind it was. It was delicious, delicious. But making grits reminds me of working at that James Beard dinner with BJ down there in Virginia. Okay. So here's my grits. Pardon me. And they're just about ready. I'm gonna let them cook just a second longer. All right. We've got our scallions. All right. I'm gonna cut up a little bit of parsley. Now, I know you're like, well, why didn't you add the parsley when you were cooking the shrimp? Why are you gonna add it now? Here's the reality with fresh herbs. Fresh herbs like to be added closer to the end of the cooking process. Why? Because their flavor comes out really fast because it's fresh. Now, if you didn't have a fresh herb, you could use a dry herb. The dry herbs take more time, they take moisture and heat for them to come out, which is why you'll see them added earlier in the cooking process. Okay, here is some parsley. Chop that up. Now, parsley is one of those things, you can have it for a couple of days. The secret is if you're going to chop parsley and keep it in the fridge and you don't want it to turn brown on you, you put the parsley in like a cheesecloth. Squeeze it really, really, really hard. Wring it, and eventually you'll see the green juice starting to come out. That green juice is full of chlorophyll. Once you get a lot of that chlorophyll out of there, it'll stop the parsley from turning brown in the fridge on you. All right, so we got our herbs. Let me check my grits. Okay, grits are looking lovely now. True story, one of my friends and I, we were in a competition, cooking competition, a big one, in Baltimore. And we had the most amazing smoked shrimp with the most amazing grits of all time. Forgot to turn the burner off and had it on the warm setting. Popcorn grits. Remember I was telling you don't want them popcorn grits? I've lived it. I know it. I ain't gonna say who it was. I ain't gonna say. But it was a good dish. Right up until then. Right up until then. And I know he didn't do it on purpose. It just happened. All right. So my grits are looking scrumdiddlyumptious. Now it's time to add some of that queso, some of that cheese. So today I'm using some cheese that's got plenty of flavor. I'm using some cheese, the cheddar, and I'm using the pepper jack. I love cheddar. Here's my thing. If you're gonna go cheddar, my advice, why play around with the thing? Why are you going with mild cheddar? You throw the sharp cheddar in there so you get the punch of the cheddar flavor. So I'm gonna put some cheddar in here. Boom. You're like, oh my goodness, chef, you put a lot of cheese in there. Yes, my wife, she's from the Mo Cheese tribe. And if we say cheese, she's saying, yes, please. So I gotta make sure I get a healthy amount of cheddar in there. And you start to stir it up. Ooh, you see the strings of cheese in there already? Hello. Look at that strings of cheese already starting. But that's not all, folks. Let's add some pepper jack to that thing. Grits are one of those foods where you can add almost any cheese to here. You can make it do any profile. You could go Gouda. Let me tell you, smoked Gouda grits are off the hook. You can go pepper jack. You can go cheddar. If you want to play a bit, you could go brie. You could go boursin. You could go blue cheese, like nice and subtle with it to go along with your steak. There's all kinds of things you can do with the grits. All right. So here we go. That's looking beautiful. Let me get a spoon here. Let's try this out. All right. Let me see how good we did today. I don't want to burn myself. Woo! Honey, you want to marry me all over again. I'm telling you. That's from my wife, Tisha. Trying to tell you. Okay. We're going to add a little bit of salt to here. We're going to add a little bit of pepper. I like the fresh cracked black pepper. Some people's like, oh, but then it's got specks in your grits. I don't care. It tastes good. All right. So there's our grits. Let me get a bowl now. Let's see. Let's use this bowl. Why not? We'll use this guy here. Let me get a, oh, here we go, a ladle. Let's put some grits in here. You see all that cheese, right? All right, there we go. Beautiful. It would be like on my next to last scoop, I make a mess on the rim of the bowl. You peep that? Can't believe that. And my OCD behind, you know I'm going to get it off. There we go. Now we're looking good. Okay. All right, so there's our grits. Looking scrumdiddly-umptious. I'm gonna add just a little pinch of parsley here. And then let's put on here some shrimp and our bacon mixture. Right in the center. Right in the center. Honey, if you're watching, I told you you was gonna marry me all over again. Try to tell you. This right here give you goosebumps. All right, there we go. So we got our shrimp. We have the grits going on. I'm gonna give it just another little sprinkle of fresh parsley. I'm gonna give it just a little bit of scallion here for a little fresh bite. And I'm just gonna give it just the slightest couple drops of lemon juice just to wake it up. All right, y'all. I'm Chef Dana. This has been the Chef Dana Show. We're getting ready to get out of here so I can dig into this bowl of shrimp and grits. Remember, check out the website, check out the recipes. Shrimp and grits, Chef Dana Show. We'll see you next time at DETV.